Suddenly, a little cat appeared before him. He decided to dial the Help Me hotline, just in time to bump into the girl walking her dog that day. Seeing the cat's wounds, the girl hurriedly opened her front door. Then she gave the kitty a checkup, and the wound was already infected. The cat needed antibiotics and a thorough examination, but Boone was tight on cash. Hearing the girl, Boone explained that the cat wasn't his and he couldn't afford much. Unexpectedly, the girl said this while petting the cat. Boone didn't have a chance to say anything. The girl handed Boone a card because she volunteered at a vet clinic, suggesting he take the little cat there. She added it was a recommendation. Saying this, Betty named the kitten Bob. It was time for her to walk the dog. Betty urged Boone to take Bob to the clinic quickly since she needed to walk her dog. With that said, Boone had no choice but to take Bob to the... On the way, he tightly wrapped Bob in clothes, with only a small hair exposed, fearing reinfection of Bob's wound. Animal sounds all around seemed like a concert. Bob tried to guide Boone away from the sudden animal encounters, but luckily, it was soon their turn. Boone took Bob to the front desk to get medicine, only for the doctor to ask Boone for Red 22. Subtitles: it was free to see a doctor here, but medication wasn't. Boone couldn't find much cash, so he took out the little his father gave him. Despite paying a high price for Bob's meds, Bob stayed indifferent. Nothing Boone tried helped. Bob strongly resisted Boone's way of giving medicine, prompting Boone to ask Betty for help again. Bob, agitated moments earlier, obediently took the pill in front of Betty. With Bob around, Boone and Betty found common topics. The night started poorly, but ended well for Boone, who was late for his follow-up caring for Bob. Val saw the blood on Boone's jacket and hurriedly asked what occurred. Boone desperately explained the past 2 days from his account. Val could tell Boone had feelings for Betty. He could only emphasize how emotions play a critical role in addiction treatment. Both positive and negative feelings greatly affect recovery. So he advised Boone to drop this unrequited love. Boone took Val's advice seriously, as he truly wanted to quit, so he and Bob stayed home all day. Boone slowly got used to this lifestyle. One day, he went to sell drinks as usual, but found the recovered Bob tagging along. He had to explain it was work. He hoped Bob wouldn't follow him. But the bus had arrived, so Boone boarded it with the crowd, and Bob jumped onto the bus without hesitation. Everyone showed considerable friendliness towards this little cat. The conductor was also a kind-hearted person, permitting the kitten to board this bus. The enthusiastic conductor unfastened his own backpack, which made a perfect makeshift collar for Bob. Bob was curious about everything around him, exploring wildly. Reluctantly, Boone had to let him sit. Now, Boone became the center of attention. Everyone wanted to come and pet the little cat. Thanks to Bob, the crowd watching was larger than ever. Coins clinked into Boone's guitar case, with people marveling at and showing curiosity for the cat accompanied artist. Afterwards, an old lady came up, sharing she had once had a similar cat. Boone delightedly played with Bob, but all this was secretly observed by a grinning Mark, who hid behind a rock and did not confront Boone. Instead, he rode the bus following Boone home. Early next morning, Mark showed up before Boone to share joys and sorrows, but was in trouble. He even wanted to invite Boone out for a meal, but Boone couldn't bring himself to accept. Boone felt guilty inside, yet was helpless. Mark was in trouble. He wanted to crash at Boone's place for a few days. Boone felt powerless towards his old friend and handed Mark some cash to buy food. So Boone turned on his heel and was about to walk away. He had made up his mind. Next came Mark's choice. With Christmas approaching, Boone sang a festive Christmas tune, and everyone was caught up in the holidays. The elderly lady also got Bob a Christmas gift, 2 cans of cat food, and a hand-knitted scarf. Boone dressed Bob in it and met Betty on his way home. Boone thanked Betty for her help and wanted to treat her to a big meal. Unexpectedly, Betty was a vegetarian, leaving Boone at a loss. Instead, Betty invited Boone over, saying she'd prepare the ingredients. She told Boone to come to her house for dinner in an hour. Arriving at Betty's home, Boone stared at the wall murals, and Betty told him they were all created by her brother, an artistic genius. While dining, Boone wanted to treat his friend Bob, so he took Bob on a supermarket shopping spree. At checkout, he saw flowers and bought a bouquet for Betty. On his way home, Boone found a person lying on the road. Closer inspection revealed it was Mark. Boone rushed to aid him, and Betty came to help. Compared to Boone's confusion, Betty handled the situation with great composure, as though she dealt with such situations often. After putting Mark, Betty confided in Boone about her past. She said her brother was an excellent painter who fell into addiction and ultimately died in the bathroom. That's why Betty was so well informed. She moved here reminiscing about her brother. She couldn't believe her perfect brother died so lonely and tragically. Betty's story deeply touched Boone. Plus, with Mark's overdose, his own responses became quite heavy. The next morning, Boone saw Val out, saying he was ready to stop drugs. He only wanted to quit and live normally. Val comforted him to wait until after Christmas, at which point he would assess whether Boone could start the process. As Christmas approached, Boone and Betty planned another grand, only this time their meeting place changed to Boone's home. Boone gave Betty a little bracelet, and Betty gifted Boone a painting done by her brother. Betty even personally wrote a card for Bob. Boone brought Betty a bunch of pearls and some whiskey. After they were all filled up, Boone couldn't help but sing, while Betty happily played with Bob. This warm scene felt like a family moment. Bob was nearly asleep, but the intense chemistry between them was unbearable, so he fled. Boone selectively told Betty some things. Betty was very supportive of Boone going to have dinner with his father, while a couple nearby was whispering sweet nothings. The atmosphere between the two shifted to something delicate. Boone, with Bob, boarded the bus headed to his father's house. On the bus, Boone adjusted himself, trying to shed his old, defeated look before his father. Arriving home, he saw his dad arguing with family and had a brainwave. He hid Bob inside his clothing and knocked on the door. Initially, his father opened it joyfully, but upon seeing Boone outside, his expression changed instantly, yet he let Boone in. Seeing Boone, his sister was cold. Both said, "Mom doesn't like Boone."